Hey, this is Daniel with Android Central, and we are here at the Sony booth at MWC 2019 talking about these three phones, the company's latest lineup. They're getting away from the XZ series, and they're just moving to numbers. We're looking at the Xperia 1 and the Xperia 10 and 10 Plus. So we'll start with the 1. This isn't coming out until late spring, early summer, and we don't really have a lot to talk about yet, but we do have the hardware. This is a 4K HDR OLED panel at 21:9 aspect ratio. This is probably the tallest phone screen you'll ever use. But Sony says there's a reason for this shift. It's all about cinema. It's about aligning with its movie division, with its gaming division, about giving people that immersive space in landscape mode to do more. And the company's shown off a whole bunch of new features around video capture and around getting a better gaming experience by putting the controls on the right and left side of the screen and still having that equivalent of 16:9 in the middle. Hardware-wise, we have a Snapdragon 855 processor, 6 gigs of RAM, and 128 gigabytes of storage standard. And of course, being Sony, cameras are super important. And here we have the first triple camera setup on any Sony phone. There are three 12 megapixel sensors here with the typical loadout of focal lengths. We have a standard focal length, we have a telephoto, and we have an ultra wide lens as well. So if you've seen the Galaxy S10 and S10 Plus, you know what to expect. The good news here, though, is that Sony is finally putting optical image stabilization in its devices. Thank goodness. The new head of Sony Mobile is now the former head of the company's camera division. So you can see here that while there's still a typical loadout of buttons and the experiences are going to be familiar, this should get the best photo and video quality we've seen from a Sony device. And there are going to be pro tools to go along with it, including the integration of professional video capture tools for professionals and YouTubers that are looking to go wider, go either 21:9 or 2:1, and adjust their color temperature, their frame rate, their various other settings on the fly. Sony wants this phone to be the device that those creators use. Sony Mobile is also working closely with its Bravia division to give this 4K HDR OLED display DCI P3 and BT 2020 color gamut certification so that these screens can be used as reference monitors, just like the much larger ones that are used by movie directors and other creators. So Sony wants these to stand in as reference monitors for video professionals, which is pretty ambitious, but it's also showing the direction that it wants its mobile division to go. So we can't show you any of the software, it's not ready, but we will be back later with a video review. But I want to show you the other two really interesting mid-range devices that Sony's launching as well this year. These are the Xperia 10 and 10 Plus. This is the 6-inch 10 and the 6.5-inch 10 Plus. They are also 21:9, and as you can see, the bezels have been shrunk again. So even though they're pretty tall, they're usable, especially the Xperia 10. They have Snapdragon 630 processors, 3 or 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage. The Xperia 10 has a 13 megapixel camera on the back, followed by a 5 megapixel depth camera as well, whereas the more expensive Xperia 10 Plus has a 12 megapixel main sensor and an 8 megapixel depth sensor. We're getting Android 9 Pie and all of Sony's optimizations as well. And even though these are 1080p displays, they look pretty good. You'll be able to pick up the Xperia 10 and 10 Plus for $349 and $429 respectively, starting March 18th. So that is the latest from Sony Mobile, the Xperia 1, the Xperia 10, and the 10 Plus. This is going to be an interesting year for Sony. They have a new head of mobile. They have a lot of ambitious plans for bringing its reputation back. Whether or not they can deliver, we'll have to see when they bring you the Xperia 1 later this year. But if you're interested, you can pick this up in a couple of weeks. My name is Daniel Bader. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Hey, this is Daniel with Android Central, and we are here at the Sony booth at